Heno Prabhu Kotagela Acharya Thakur. Kaha Mora Svarup Rupa Kaha Sanatan. Kaha Dasa Raghunatha Patita Pavan. Kaha Mora Bhata Juga Kaha Kaviraj. Eka Kale Kotagela Goranataraj. Pashane Kutibo Mata Anale Pashibo. Goranga Gunera Nidhi Kotagele Pabo. Se Saba Sangira Sange Yekoilo Vilas. Se Sangana Paya Kande Narottamadas. Je Anilo Premadhana Karuna Pracho. Heno Prabhu Kotagela Acharya Thakur. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Shtottada Shutta Shishimad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtottada Shutta Shishimad. Bhakti Siddhanta Sarasvati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki. Anant Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki. Hare Krishna. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vikasa. Bring it from away from the wall. Here. There's a fire extinguisher right there. There's a fire extinguisher in the corner right there. Pull the pin. You pull the pin and then you Spraying. Trace has got it. All right. Um. Okay. I mean. Hmm? I don't know. I mean, we should open up the windows definitely. Yeah. Um. Buck to Trace. You could please get some fans afterwards. Okay. Should we continue? Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and chant the Mangalacharan. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Gadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shiyataf Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragana Tanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Shcha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanta Nagorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kalpatiripyascha kripasantu bhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunivari Paschati Deshatarine Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swaminiti Namane Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So today is the Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today is the disappearance day of Madhavendra Puri. I'm just going to pull up my notes. Give me 1 second, please. So Madhavendra Puri appeared in the 14th century. So that was roughly somewhere around 600 years ago. He is an acharya, meaning he's one of our teachers. And he comes in the Madhavendra, or the Madhva Sampradaya, also known as the Brahma Sampradaya, the line of teachers coming from Lord Brahma, the creator of this universe. And he has come as a disciple of Lakshmi Pati Tirtha, and he also acts as the guru, the spiritual master of both Ishvara Puri and Sri Advaita Prabhu. So Ishvara Puri is actually the spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya. Now Lord Chaitanya is actually an incarnation of God. God came by his mercy in the form of a human being like 500 years ago. And he enacted seemingly human pastimes, though he exhibited symptoms which, through which we can understand that he is God himself. And so Ishvara Puri is Lord Chaitanya, God's spiritual master. And Madhavendra Puri, whose disappearance day is today, is Ishvara Puri's spiritual master. So Madhavendra Puri, he's known there's this one pastime. Also just a little background information. Madhavendra Puri is credited as being the start of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, actually before even Lord Chaitanya even appeared. So one day, Madhavendra Puri, he was fasting, and somehow or other this strange boy approached him. And this boy offered him milk. And this boy knew that Madhavendra Puri was fasting, and Madhavendra Puri thought this was strange. He hadn't told, he didn't know how this boy had found this out. Anyways, he accepted the milk and honored the milk, and he went to sleep that night, and in his dream, this same little boy approached him. And this boy actually revealed himself as Krishna in the form of Gopal. So this is God incarnated as a little cowherd boy. And so God, he incarnates in many different forms throughout many different points in time, all to deliver the fallen conditioned souls. So that's us, fallen conditioned souls. We're in the pool of material nescience. And so God, in the form of Gopal, the cowherd boy, approached Madhavendra Puri when Madhavendra Puri was dreaming, and he pointed to this bush and said, there's a deity in this bush. You need to recover this deity and go on top of Govardhan Hill and install this deity, install worship of this Gopal deity on top of Govardhan Hill. And so Madhavendra Puri, he woke up the next morning and he realized he had this revelation. So he went to this bush, Gopal showed him, and lo and behold, this deity was in this bush. And him and with the help of some fellow devotees, they recovered this deity and installed Gopal on Govardhan Hill. This deity actually still exists, and it's located in Natadvara, Rajasthan. Located in Rajasthan. And this deity is known as Shri Nathaji. Shri Nathaji is the Gopal deity. Madhavendra Puri, he was a very exalted devotee. He exhibited pastimes such as one day he was sleeping and he was restless. He was worried about the deity. He had the revelation that the deity was hot. Gopal needed to be cooled, and so Madhavendra Puri traveled all the way to the Malaya mountains to recover the sandalwood pulp to cool the deity with, which was a very, very long journey. Back in the day, of course, this was all done on foot. So he performed many great austerities for the Lord. Many great sacrifices. He sacrificed himself. He is an acharya, so he's a living example of a saintly person. So there's this verse that Sri Madhavendra Puri spoke, which brought about ecstatic feelings in Lord Chaitanya. When Lord Chaitanya was in Jagannath Puri, this verse is, forgive my Bengali pronunciation, Aidina dayadra nata he, matura nata gadevalokyase, hridayam tvad aloka kataram, dayata brahmayati kim karoti. So this comes in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in the Madhya Lila. This is Sanskrit. Oh, forgive me. So this comes in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, 4.197. And the translation goes as follows. O compassionate Lord of the poor and humble, O Lord of Mathura, when shall I see you again? Without seeing you, my heart has become very much afflicted. O my beloved, I am overwhelmed. What shall I do? So Madhavendra Puri spoke this verse and Lord Chaitanya went into ecstasy. So it's said that actually this verse was spoken by Srimati Radharani, but Madhavendra Puri's mouth was used as an instrument. Now, Srimati Radharani is the foremost devotee of God, who is his eternal consort, his eternal consort. And so this was actually spoken by Srimati Radharani, this verse. And Lord Chaitanya actually is an incarnation of a combination of Radharani and Krishna, God and his consort. They more or less combined together and incarnated as Lord Chaitanya to experience some sort of mood, some sort of rasa, some sort of feeling. And so I'd like to read a little bit that I got from the ISKCON Desire Tree. The Gaudiya Vaishnavas conclude that the monsoon shower of ecstatic love exhibited by Lord Gauranga during his manifest pastimes began with Madhavendra Puri, who then came through Ishvara Puri, who played the role of Lord Chaitanya's spiritual master. Madhavendra Puri's samadhi is in Remuna, Orissa, near the temple of Kshira Chora Gopinath. So that's a little bit about Madhavendra Puri, my very limited knowledge. Still have a lot to learn. So now we'll read from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 5,000-year-old scripture. So right now we are on Canto 2, Chapter 4, Text 1. You can repeat after me word for word. Sutta, Uvacha, Vayasakir, Iti, Vachas, Tattva, Nishchayam, Atmanaha, Upadharya, Matim, Krishne, Autareyaha, Satim, Vyadhat, Sutu Vacha, Vayasakir iti Vachas, Tattva Nishchayamat Manaha, Upadharya Matim Krishne, Autareya Satim Vyadhat, Sutta Uvacha, Vayasakir iti Vachas, Tattva Nishchayamat Manaha, Upadharya Matim Krishne, Autareya Satim Vyadhat, Sutu Vacha, Vayasakir iti Vachas, Tattva Nishchayamat Manaha, Upadharya Matim Krishne, Autareya Satim Vyadhat. Please repeat. Sutu Vacha. Sutta Uvacha. Tattva Nishchayamat Manaha, Upadharya Matim Krishne, Autareya Satim Vyadhat. Mataji's, you want to try? Sutta Uvacha. Vayasakir Vachas, Tattva Nishchayamat Manaha, Upadharya Matim Krishne, Autareya Satim Vyadhat. Okay, word for word synonyms. Sutta Uvacha. Sutta Goswami said, Vayasakehe of Shukadev Goswami. Iti, thus. Vachaha, speeches. Tattvanishchayam, that which verifies the truth. Atmanaha, in the self. Upadharya, just having realized. Matim, concentration of the mind. Krishna, unto Lord Krishna. Autareya, the son of Uttara. Satim, chaste. Vyadhat, applied. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki. Sutta Goswami said, Maharaj Parikshit, the son of Uttara, after hearing the speeches of Shukadev Goswami, which were all about the truth of the self, applied this concentration faithfully upon Lord Krishna. The word satim is very important. This means existing and chaste, and both imports are perfectly applicable in the case of Maharaj Parikshit. The whole Vedic adventure is to draw one's attention entirely unto the lotus feet of Lord Krishna without any diversion, as instructed in the Bhagavad Gita 15:15. Fortunately, Maharaj Parikshit had already been attracted to the Lord from the very beginning of his body, in the womb of his mother. In the womb of his mother, he was struck by the Brahmastra atomic bomb released by Ashvatthama, but by the grace of the Lord, he was saved from being burnt by the fiery weapon. And since then the king continuously concentrated his mind upon Lord Krishna, which made him perfectly chaste in devotional service. So by natural sequence, he was a chaste devotee of the Lord. And when he further heard from Srila Shukadev Goswami that one should worship the Lord only and no one else, even though full of all desires or desireless, his natural affection for Krishna was strengthened. We have already discussed these topics. To become a pure devotee of Lord Krishna, two things are very much essential, namely, having a chance to be born in the family of a devotee and having the blessings of a bona fide spiritual master. By the grace of Lord Krishna, Parikshit Maharaj had both opportunities. He was born in a family of such devotees as the Pandavas, and just to continue the dynasty of the Pandavas and show them special favor, the Lord specifically saved Maharaj Parikshit, who later on, by the arrangement of the Lord, was cursed by the boy of a Brahmana and was able to get the association of such a spiritual master as Shukadev Goswami. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that a fortunate person, by the mercy of the spiritual master in Krishna, achieves the path of devotional service. This was perfectly applicable in the case of Maharaj Parikshit by way of being born in a family of devotees. He automatically came in touch with Krishna, and after being so contacted, he constantly remembered him. Consequently, Lord Krishna gave the king a further chance for development in devotional service by introducing him to Shukadev Goswami, a stalwart devotee of the Lord with perfect knowledge in self-realization. And by hearing from the bona fide spiritual master, he was perfectly able to concentrate his chaste mind further upon Lord Krishna as a matter of course. So I've already chanted the Mangalacharan, so I'm going to go ahead and start speaking. So to sum up this purport, Srila Prabhupada is describing that Maharaj Parikshit is an ideal devotee, and he's a role model for us to follow. In fact, this is the whole reason why Krishna arranges these pastimes. Well, one of the reasons at least is to give us an example for by which we can live. We are born in this current age, the Kali Yuga age, meaning the age of quarrel and hypocrisy, and we possess so many vices. I mean, we have so many bad qualities. And practically, children, when they're first born, when they're young, they're pretty much animals. They don't have any conception of cleanliness. They act impulsively. They scream and cry. They can't communicate effectively. And so, by the affiliation with culture, the human being gradually develops human qualities. He starts to speak, starts to act with some social formality, starts to understand other people's feelings. And this is the function of human culture, is the ability to communicate with the mind and the intelligence to understand these subtler realms, whereas animals are strictly pretty much on the gross platform, meaning they eat, sleep, mate, and defend, and their activities don't go beyond this. Now, the human being has the opportunity with the tool of language, the tool of technological advancement, etc. The human being has the ability to aim for something higher. Ultimately, a human being is supposed to inquire using his intelligence. So this is the function of the human being. Now, we have culture here in the West, but it's not culture in the sense as Srila Prabhupada used the term. Here in the Western world, there are some strong roots in Christianity, say, but if we look at society as it is in the present moment, it's simply functioning with the aims of advancing, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. All the technological advancement that's going on, they're trying to go to Mars, but their ultimate aim is just to enjoy on Mars. They don't have any conception of God or any conception of a higher power or even an authority. Rather, they try to act as the authority. So this is Western culture. It's a godless civilization, more or less. And so this Vedic culture is here, and this Vedic culture, if we follow it, it is perfectly conducive for Krishna consciousness or God realization. And so Maharaj Parikshit, he acts as a role model within this Vedic culture. He was born in a family of devotees. Even from before his birth, he was completely surrendered to the Lord. And through Vedic culture, he submitted himself to a guru and completely surrendered to his guru and exhibited the process of self-realization for us. And now we have this text, the Srimad Bhagavatam, which we can learn from. It describes all these pastimes of all these great devotees within Vedic culture. So we could practically see people following this Vedic culture, and we could practically, we could hear about them achieving self-realization, having intimate relationships with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, Srila Prabhupada, in the first section of this purport, there's 2 paragraphs. In the first paragraph, he mainly talks about chastity and how Maharaj Parikshit was actually very chaste to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. From his very birth, Maharaj Parikshit took full shelter of Krishna when Ashvatthama released the Brahmastra weapon. The Brahmastra weapon is similar to an atomic bomb, only that it's perfectly controlled by the attacker. The one who releases the Brahmastra weapon has perfect control upon what is devastated by this Brahmastra weapon, whereas an atomic bomb, it just blows up, and there's no discrimination. It's a weapon in the mode of ignorance, meaning it's not controlled. It's not controlled. So regarding chastity, I would like to read from Srimad Bhagavatam. This is Canto 9, Chapter 10, Text 55. This is within the pastimes of Lord Ram and his consort Sita Devi. So Lord Ram is another incarnation of Krishna, God. So the translation goes as follows. Mother Sita was very submissive, faithful, shy, and chaste, always understanding the attitude of her husband. Thus, by her character and her love and service, she completely attracted the mind of the Lord. So Mother Sita, she is an incarnation of the consort of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, meaning she's the topmost devotee. So by following in her footsteps, she is chaste towards her husband, and by being chaste towards Krishna, by being chaste towards God, fully reserved for God, not not dedicating oneself to any other purpose other than the service of the Lord. This is chastity. This is strict adherence to a personality. And so it says that by being chaste and by having all these good qualities, she attracted the mind of the Lord. So this is the process for attaining self-realization, but this is the process for attaining heaven. This is the process for attaining the kingdom of God. This is the process of attracting the mind of the Lord, is by being fully chaste and fully surrendered, by sticking our neck out for Krishna. Even though Krishna, he doesn't need anything, and in all honesty, whatever endeavor I may perform, it's all pathetic compared to the abundance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But Krishna, he doesn't see the power that the individual devotee has, whatever infinitesimal power he has, whatever small power even an ant has, but rather he sees the endeavor of the devotee, the dedication, the love. And there's a pastime in the Ramayana, I believe it's an ant, but Hanuman, or I don't, it was a squirrel, right. Anyways, they're trying to build a bridge from one side of the ocean to the other. And this was, the bridge was being built in the service of ultimately serving God. And, they're these monkey devotees in the bodily form of monkeys. They were building this bridge with rocks, and they were stacking these rocks and aligning them all the way across the river. And there was the ocean, yes, sorry. And there was a squirrel who also wanted to help. This squirrel, I can't remember if he just grabbed a pebble or sand. So yeah, he carried sand in his body. He's just putting little grains of sand along this path. Very infinitesimal service in the building of this bridge. But in actuality, this was a perfected service. There was nothing lacking in this squirrel's service. Even though materially speaking, it seemed very insignificant. But the squirrel was a great devotee, in that the squirrel was dedicating all its energy to the service of the Lord. So but by being completely chaste towards the Lord, we'll attract the mind of the Lord. This is the process of going back to heaven, is to being fully committed. I'd like to read from another verse. This is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, Text 13. 1:8:13. Thank you. So the translation goes as follows. The Almighty Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, having observed that a great danger was befalling his unalloyed devotees who were fully surrendered souls, at once took up his Sudarshana disc to protect them. So this verse is within, so this pastime that we're actually reading about in today's verse of Ashvatthama releasing the Brahmastra, the atomic weapon, against Maharaj Parikshit in the womb of his mother. This is a verse from that part of the Bhagavatam. And so the Lord comes to protect him with the Sudarshan disc, which is one of the weapons of Vishnu. So in this purport, it mentions that Maharaj Parikshit did not know anyone other than Krishna. He never saw anyone as separate from the Lord. Now the Lord, everything ultimately is connected with God. Everything is ultimately coming from God. Everything is a part and parcel of God. And due to our ignorance, we don't see that all the time. Sometimes we feel that this is my body, this is my house, my car, I'm in control of it, I'm doing all these repairs, therefore I'm in control. This is subtly atheistic, actually. A devotee actually knows that, or actually realizes all the time that nothing is separate from the Lord. And so Maharaj Parikshit, he did not know anyone other than Krishna. Everyone he saw in relation with Krishna, as parts and parcels. The Bhagavad Gita 9:31 states, Kshipram bhavati dharmatma shashvat chantim nigachati kunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. So, you don't have to pull this up, Prabhu, but the translation for that is, he quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. So my devotee never perishes. This is Krishna's promise, that if we become his devotees, that will never perish. This is the ultimate path of perfection. Everybody is scared of death. Everybody is afraid of leaving their bodies, leaving their houses, leaving their families, their kids, their friends, their society, their nation. They're scared of leaving this earth. They don't know what lies on the other side. They're scared of leaving these things because they're attached to them. Their mind is very attracted by these things, and therefore they're scared of losing it. But if we, rather than being attached to those things which are all temporary and material, it's inevitable that we're all going to leave these bodies. The city of Atlanta at some point in time will not exist. People are very attached to their cities. But rather than being attached to these temporary things, if we become attached to that which is eternal, which is God, Krishna, and our relationships with the devotees, then we have nothing to fear. There actually is no death for a devotee, because a devotee realizes that he is the spirit soul inside and he is not the body. So when we think we're the body, when we identify with the body dies and we die. But if we identify with the spirit soul which never dies, then we never die. Then we're, even before this body dies, we're on the platform of knowing that we're the spirit soul. And so Krishna says, my devotee never perishes. This is his promise. So going back to this purport, when the Lord saw that there was no time for the Pandavas to counteract the Brahmastra of Ashvatthama, he took up his weapon, even at the risk of breaking his own vow. Although the battle of, so this is describing that basically Krishna made a vow, and by interfering with Ashvatthama's weapon, Vishnu interfered to prevent the killing of Maharaj Parikshit. Krishna was actually breaking his vow in this instance. So continuing. Although the battle of Kurukshetra was almost finished, still, according to his vow, he should not have taken up his weapon. But the emergency was more important than the vow. He is better known as the Bhakta Vatsala, or the lover of his devotee, and thus he preferred to continue as Bhakta Vatsala than to be a worldly moralist who never breaks his solemn vow. And so the vows, this vow that Krishna took, it can be related to the codes of Dharma, religious codes that are in place, Vedic rules, if you will. And so these rules are ultimately in place to facilitate the cultivation of devotional service, ultimately to bring the conditioned soul back to Krishna. These are the reason that all these dharmic rules are in place. And so that's the higher principle, is the relationship, is the, Krishna actually promises, my devotee is never vanquished. And this Krishna's valuing of his devotees and his love for his devotees is a principle that supersedes the codes of Dharma or the rules, because all the rules are all the rules are ultimately meant to serve the purpose of facilitating the loving relationship of Krishna with his devotees. And so Krishna was not concerned with keeping these vows. He was more concerned with protecting Maharaj Parikshit. Now, Maharaj Parikshit, he came in a line of saintly kings. And he was, relatively speaking, towards the end of this line, the end of this lineage, meaning that as time progresses, civilization degrades. And so Maharaj Parikshit was one of the former noble rulers. And so Maharaj Parikshit, he was firmly surrendered to Krishna, and therefore Krishna saved him. So that's the principle. That's the foremost of desire. That's the foremost desire of Krishna, is to facilitate his relationship with his devotees. It's also said that not a blade of grass moves without the sanction of the Lord. And the devotee recognizes this. Anyways, moving on. There are two essential things that Srila Prabhupada talks about in this purport. And those essential things are, one, being born in the family of the devotee, and two, taking up a spiritual master. Now, the definition of the word essential is that it's absolutely necessary. Absolutely necessary. Now, most of us in this room have not been born in the family of a devotee. So, anyways, that doesn't mean that we can't be devotees, even though it seems like Prabhupada says this here, that to be born in the family of devotees is essential if you're becoming a devotee. Now, something like this may be misinterpreted by the people who adhere to the mundane modern caste system, that you need to be born in a particular family in order to be a brahmana or to practice devotional service. But Prabhupada was using this word essential to stress the importance of cultivating devotee families. So this is a standard he set. And through statements like this, we could see the mood and mission of Srila Prabhupada, to have devotee families and to initiate people. And this is actually how we perpetuate the sampradaya, the parampara. So that the parampara refers to the disciplic succession. So basically, there's a long, long lineage, practically eternal, a lineage of spiritual teachers that this assembly is somehow part of. This assembly sitting here right now has somehow become we've all somehow gotten in touch with this long lineage of teachers, which is eternal, an eternal lineage of very important spiritual teachings. And so parampara refers to this lineage. To give a brief Sanskrit analysis, param means perfectly or supreme or transcendental, the best, the most exalted. And then a para is a row or a series. So parampara means a transcendental sequence. So, yeah, fortunately we've come in contact with the parampara. So, the importance of having devotee families is, it's very important. There's what's known as samskaras, which are impressions formed on the mind. Now, over time, in our sojourn throughout the material world, we have created many impressions in our mind. We've gone through traumas. We have had some really exciting times that have made these heavy impressions in our mind, things we'll never forget. Now, many of these samskaras, or these impressions, are only material, and a lot of them are very degraded, especially here in the West. Some past lives that we may have had before aspiring to devotional service. And so raising kids up from the very beginning is important, as raising kids up as devotees from the very beginning is important to create those devotional samskars rather than mundane samskars. Because the samskars, they also facilitate attraction. We may have had some experience in the past. We may have had some experience in the past. It's okay, it's okay. Where we have felt some material bliss. We really satisfied our senses one time. And then from there on after, we're constantly trying to recreate that moment. People do, for instance, like some people do drugs, and the first time's always the best time, is what they say. And, of course I've never done heroin, but I've heard that the first time is amazing and it's never the same. And you'll never feel that bliss again. Anyways, people, they go on chasing because it's created such a heavy samskara, that experience. And so yeah, this samskaras, they can facilitate attraction. They can facilitate future action. And so when we have devotional samskaras, samskaras in Krishna consciousness, then it's very healthy. Because then we'll remember, that, you'll be driving down the road, and rather than remembering the time you were, acting like an animal with your friends on this road, you can remember the time you're going out on book distribution. You're driving down this road, and I remember I did huge that day, and I went through so many struggles, but I pushed through and was successful in the end somehow. So just having nice memories of book distribution, having nice memories of being in the kirtan, of taking prasadam with the devotees, these are healthy devotional samskaras. And so when we cultivate children, when we have children and cultivate them from their very birth, then we can facilitate healthy samskars for them. So the other principle, the first principle, the essential principle Srila Prabhupada mentioned is having devotee kids, a devotee being born in a devotee family. Now the second qualification, the second important spiritual factor is being initiated by a spiritual master. This is known as Diksha initiation. And so when we take initiation, we gain entrance into the sampradaya. And so this is another very important factor. It's said in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, 19:151. This is a very famous verse. Guru Krishna Kripaya Paya Bhakti Lata Bij. So Srila Prabhupada, in some instances, translates this as, by the grace of Krishna, one gets Guru, and by the grace of Guru, one gets Krishna. And so yeah, ultimately everything is sanctioned by Krishna. Everything is in control. Krishna is in control of everything in the ultimate sense. Krishna is arranging everything, and Krishna arranges for the devotee to come in contact with his or her spiritual master. But at the same time, the spiritual master is a devotee, and in one sense has Krishna under his control with his loving devotion. Now Krishna, God, is unconquerable. God is the topmost personality. So how could God be conquered? If God is supreme, then no one can conquer him, right? But actually it's said that God is conquered by his love, by his loving devotees. God is conquered by love. Similarly, the Father may be conquered by the Son in a game of chess, for instance. The Father obviously is much more intelligent than the little kid, but out of love, out of a nice experience, a nice interaction to facilitate a nice relationship, the Father may surrender checkmate to the Son. And this is a mundane example of love. Love conquers all, that principle. In a spiritual sense, the devotee conquers God if the devotee is pure enough. Now, the desire to conquer God is not a pure desire. To serve God is a pure desire. But out of mercy, by seeing the endeavor of the devotee, Krishna is very much afflicted with compassion and care that Krishna will surrender to the devotee's desire. And so in relation with Guru Krishna Kripaya Paya Bhakti Lata Bij, the devotee is more merciful than Krishna. That's another thing that's said. That the devotee has actually, the guru, the spiritual master, who is a devotee of God, has pulled us out of the material world, the material ocean of nescience, which we are drowning in, and has mercifully given us the shade of his lotus feet. And because the spiritual master is surrendered to the lotus feet of Krishna, we similarly are linked. We're linked with Krishna in that way. The spiritual master is our link with God. And so the principle I'm enunciating on here is that by the mercy of Guru, one gets Krishna. We can understand by the mercy of Krishna, one gets Guru. That's easy. By the mercy of God, we get our teacher. But by the mercy of the Guru, actually, we get Krishna. If it weren't for Srila Prabhupada, arguably none of us in this room would have a proper understanding of God consciousness. Srila Prabhupada, that was his desire as a devotee to serve. It was his desire in service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead to save the fallen conditioned souls and deliver these fallen conditioned souls to the lotus feet of Krishna. Yes, so a devotee, he knows that there's no alternative. There's no alternative to devotional service. There's no other way. There's no other way to attain the kingdom of heaven. The only means is by full surrender. There's no alternative. Kurvaneveha karmani jivivachek chakam samaha evam tvayi nanyate tosti nakarma lipyate nare. That one can perform this devotional service for many, many years, knowing that there's no other alternative. And this type of work actually does not bind one to the material world, but rather gives one spiritual liberation. So the spiritual liberation we're talking about, attaining the kingdom of God, attaining heaven, attaining the spiritual world, Vaikuntha or Goloka Vrindavan. In the Vedic conception, there's actually many spiritual planetary systems, and we can attain, there's so many different heavens we can attain. This is according to the Vedic descriptions. But yeah, we need to perform devotional service year after year, life after lifetime. And there's no other alternative. This is the only way by which we can become liberated. So yeah, a devotee, he feels yugayitam nimeshena chakshusha pravrishaitam shunyaitam jagat sarvam govinda virahename. That without the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, a small moment feels like a great millennium. And because God isn't visible to my eyes, my heart is constantly broken. And I'm constantly shedding tears. Where is Govinda? So this is actually Lord Chaitanya. At the beginning of this class, we talked about the incarnation of God. He was known as Lord Chaitanya, who appeared 500 years ago. This is a verse that he spoke. So he incarnated as a devotee to demonstrate a devotional attitude. And of course, he didn't just demonstrate it, but he actually felt it too. Not to go on so much of a tangent. But yeah, there's no other alternative to this disciplic succession. At the end of this purport, I'll conclude. It's mentioned, actually, my phone says differently from the book. Okay. And by hearing from a bona fide spiritual master, he was perfectly able to concentrate his chaste mind further upon Lord Krishna as a matter of course. Yeah, so by hearing from a bona fide spiritual master, This is the hearing process, and hearing submissively, not just hearing. For instance, we can't hear the spiritual master for the purpose of arguing with him. In debate, when people debate, there's like school debate teams and all this. They'll listen to the other person, but their motive is actually to formulate an argument. So this isn't the mentality that we should approach the spiritual master with. Rather, we should have a completely submissive mentality. So yeah, we shouldn't argue with the spiritual master. When we choose our spiritual master, we should be very particular about choosing our spiritual master, ensuring that that person's bona fide. Because once we take initiation from them, it's the proper culture that we don't question their authority after that. Questioning of authority may be there when we first approach our spiritual master, but once we surrender to him, then you have to surrender. There's no questioning beyond that point. And to sum up this purport, Maharaj Parikshit is a role model by whose footsteps we can follow in the surrender to God, surrender to the spiritual master, by means of following the Vedic culture. As a devotional society, we should, if we choose to have children, we should strictly adhere to religious principles and not be lost in sense gratification. We should raise children up as devotees. Otherwise, our endeavors have gone in vain. We need to accept spiritual masters. We need to, at least take instruction from the spiritual masters by bona fide members of the Sampradaya. These pastimes in the Srimad Bhagavatam of Maharaj Parikshit, everything was arranged to teach us. And so Krishna arranged these pastimes so we could know the science of devotional service. I'll open my class up for any comments, questions, or corrections. If anybody please has anything to say.
So this line that Srila Prabhupada writes, that, to become a pure devotee, two things are very essential: to be born in a family of pure devotees, and then to have a bona fide spiritual masters. Very intriguing, point that Srila Prabhupada makes, and definitely what you said is 100%. The way to understand it. I'm just trying to. I'm curious to know what could be further explanations on that.
Of the meaning of essential?
Of that meaning of that particular line, and how it would apply to us who are not born in the family of pure devotees. So one thing, I pulled this Anartha Nivritti chart from Madhurya Kadambini, but now actually, as I just think about it, because I was thinking. So, anyways, this is a separate class that I wanted to speak about. But there's different kinds of anarthas, but in the end, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that when you actually associate with Krishna, is when the eradication of all anarthas is absolute. So he says there's all anarthas is complete in the prema stage. And then he says when you associate with Krishna, it is absolute. There's some technical difference there between complete and absolute, kind of a little difficult. I mean, we'd have to look more into Madhurya Kadambini to understand what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is stating in that regard. Mm-hmm. But I had initially thought of this example as a potential explanation for that to become a pure devotee of Krishna is essential. Point that to associate with Krishna, you would have to be born in a family of devotees. But actually, that's not true. Just as I pulled this up, and I was thinking, oh well, but there are associates of Krishna who are not born in families of pure devotees. Or families of devotees in general. Even in Krishna Lila, you will find examples and things like that. So, anyways, some more research has to be done to further maybe elucidate that statement. Otherwise, anyways, your points is valid. And yeah, I was trying to think more about that statement. All right.
Yeah, that's definitely worth looking into. Prabhu.
Just two things. So just the first thing real quick. So it's a technical thing, and it's like with the English language. So anyways, like the beginning of the class, you were talking about that God came in the form of Gopal. So it's not that like God, like the form of Gopal or Krishna is an assumed form. It's that the form of Krishna is the absolute truth. Right. It's like unchangeable, and that's like how it is. It's just like a language thing, because like we read like that like God is in the form of like whatever tortoise and like this, but those are like eternal existing forms. They're not like they're always there. Anyways, but yeah, so that's just like a type. It's not that like whatever. So it's because that's like that's Mayavad that that Brahman assumed like the form. That's what they say, right? That like yeah.
But Gopal is.
Yeah, Gopal's the name of Krishna.
Yeah.
Gopal, Govinda, there's all these names of Krishna. It's not that like that form is assumed.
That's like his original.
You can say that he came in the form.
He came in the form. Oh, I see.
It's a little different. It's a mild difference. But yeah.
Anyways, it's not it's just some small thing.
Yeah.
But just one thing. I mean, I can't give a complete answer to what you said, but I think it's Jiva Goswami makes the point in one of his Sandarbhas, but he explains also that there's like different like you're saying levels of pure devotees. So in the Bhagavatam, he cites there's 3 citations given. I have to look at it exactly. I remember 2. He just mentions Priyavrata Maharaj, that he was a pure devotee, but like within his heart there was like some like contamination. It did describe like that, and then as a result, one of his sons was born with like fruit of activity. Dhruva Maharaj is also mentioned that he had darshan of Prishni Garbha, and he was touched by the conch shell, and it's mentioned later chapters after that he had some contamination in his heart still because he unnecessarily was killing all those yakshas. And then I forget the last example. I think it might be Narada Muni in one of his births, but I think it's mentioned. I could look at the reference, but like that. So then anyway, he cites that's kind of like cited that there's like different like levels of like pure devotees.
How do you connect that with this stuff?
Because you have referenced that chart. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I'm just getting saying.
Are you going? We have some prasadam. Why don't you give him some prasadam?
I can go make a plate.
Okay. Well, tell him he's a little deaf, so.
So anybody else, anything else to add? Mataji's, would you like to say anything? Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai.
Madhavan Puri ki
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Mancha Kalpata Krishna